Our opening words this morning come to us from noted writer and theologian C.S. Lewis. It may be hard for an egg to turn into a bird. It would be a jolly sight harder for it to learn to fly while remaining an egg. We are like eggs at present, and you cannot go on indefinitely being just an ordinary, decent egg. We must be hatched or go bad.
Good morning, my beloved community. My name is Ryan Conley, he, him, and happy National Coming Out Day. Coming out is one of the most sacred and transformative acts in the life of an LGBTQ plus person. It is how to begin to live truthfully, to inhabit our own skin without apology. But let me be clear, coming out is not a single event. It is a journey, a lifelong unfolding. For some, the path is smooth. For others, it is steep and shadowed by risk. I count myself among the lucky ones. My family, though surprised at first, met my truth with love. But that is not the story for everyone. And so today we honor the courage it takes to speak one's truth into the world that doesn't always know how to receive it. I grew up in a tiny town in the high desert of western Nevada, a place of wide skies and close communities. In the 1980s, being gay simply wasn't something that was talked about much. There were no examples, no language, no models for what a life like mine could look like. Looking back, I knew there were others in that town like me, but they kept their truth hidden as did I. That was the first step in my journey, self-discovery. A quiet awareness that something about me was different. Though I had no words yet for what it was. In high school, that difference grew harder to ignore. My friends talked about girlfriends and crushes, while I find myself drawn to my male classmates. I didn't understand it then, and others seemed to sense it before I did. Small towns have their own way of knowing things. There were whispers, teasing, sometimes outright cruelty. Erasers thrown at me in class, words I won't repeat. And through it all, I learned to survive by blending in. Still, I had friends, good friends, and teachers who showed kindness. Those small mercies mattered more than they could ever know. After graduation from high school, I moved to Reno, the big city. It was there where I finally came to a place of self-acceptance. I am gay. Just saying that, first in my own mind, felt like a mountain moved. But then came the next step, telling another person. I remember practicing the words over and over. When I finally said them aloud to a close friend, a coworker, it was as if a door opened and light rushed in. No more hiding. No more dodging awkward questions. No more careful switching of pronouns from him to her, from girlfriend to boyfriend. Just relief and freedom. And a smile that came from deep inside. The hardest part came later, telling my family. I chose what in hindsight was not perfect timing, my sister's high school graduation. But I thought it might be a moment of new beginnings for us all. My father met with the news with love. My mother, though educated and compassionate, struggled. Her fears were understandable. It was the height of the AIDS crisis. She worried for my safety, my happiness, and my future. Hello, welcome. She grieved in a way not for me, but for the expectation she had carried for what my life would be. What I learned then is that coming out doesn't just belong to the person who speaks those words. It begins a journey for everyone who loves them. They too must move through the stages of understanding, sometimes denial, sometimes discomfort, until love once again leads them home. The truth is, coming out never really ends. Every new friendship, every new workplace, every introduction asks in one way or another, will I be safe here? Can I be open here? And so we do it again and again. Sometimes with confidence, sometimes with hesitation, sometimes not ever, but always with hope. That's why we must never pressure anyone to come out before they are ready. Each person's journey is sacred and deeply personal. In my own relationships, I've known partners who were not yet ready to live openly. I honored their privacy, even when it was difficult, because that choice belongs to them and only to them. The worst harm we can do is to take away that agency from them, to out someone before they have chosen that moment for themselves. Some people will say they never had to come out. They were seen and accepted as they were from the very beginning. How lucky for them, really. Others walk a harder road. But all of us, I believe, share the same yearning to be known, to be loved, to belong. And that is what our Unitarian Universalist faith teaches us, to see that inherent worth and dignity of every person, to celebrate the diversity of love, and to walk beside one another on the long road towards truth and wholeness. So on this National Coming Out Day, may we remember every story is sacred, every step toward authenticity is holy, and every time we speak our truth and love, we help create the world where no one ever has to hide again. Blessed be and thank you. I would now like to invite our pulpit, Audi and Jocelyn, as they share their own coming out story.
Hi, my name is Audi. I recently turned 30. I'm a barber, and I have a few different labels that feel more or less true to me at different times. Trans masc, he, they pronouns, butch lesbian. But for someone like me, coming out can be a bit tricky. Sometimes my identity can feel like a moving target in whatever room I'm in. Sometimes coming out can come with invasive questions and uncomfortable corrections, and especially since the beginning of the new year, new anxieties about how safe I am in the room. But coming out for someone like me who is visibly queer is a constant reality. Coming out wasn't the Facebook post I made in 2020 about being bisexual, or when I edited it 40 minutes later to pansexual, or 3 weeks later to lesbian after a particularly unpleasant date. Coming out doesn't always include the book I handed to my mom about the mothers of trans children when I told her I decided to start HRT. Coming out is a constant dance that I do with society. Is it safe if I turn here? And who will understand me if I decide to dip here? But coming out for someone like me who exists between identities means that I'm able to exist at all. The moment I decided to medically transition, I kept asking myself, if I spent all the time I think about taking testosterone, reading books, how many books could I have read? If I spent all that time lifting weights, how strong could I be? And if I spent that time with my friends, how close would we be by now? If I stopped asking if I had a place in the world and just lived in it, maybe I would find that place along the way. And the truth is, I have. We have so many people that accept us and love us. Being trans and being different means that before I even knew who I was, I had to show up being the best person. So I just like to remind people, reality is we have more spaces like this one that says, no matter who you are, just show up. So I'm very happy I found you.
Hello, I'm Jocelyn, she, her, and a lot of you have known me for years even before I came out as trans. So, before I figured out that I was trans, I figured out that I was bi, and coming out was fairly painless, all things considered. Just talking over dinner, and I came out to my family as bi. Figuring out that I'm trans was a much longer journey, which started in middle school, when I think back to it. Mostly, middle school was not the most pleasant experience. And especially gym class, having to change in the locker room and feeling like an outsider or an interloper. Just this feeling of you don't belong here, hide away. And I did. I would change under the cover of a makeshift barrier from the locker doors or in the shadowed part of the room. And in high school, I would change in the shower stall. Then came COVID and the lockdown, and spending that much time isolated, alone, gets you introspective. And my egg really cracked with a bottle of bright, sparkly blue nail polish, which I tried at New Year's. And the first person I came out to was my mom. With some hesitation, but my mom was fully accepting and has been fully supportive. My whole family has been fully supportive. And my whole church community has been fully supportive. And I am very glad to have a community like this. Thank you.
For some of us, coming up here is quite easy, but for others it's not. And I really appreciate the messages we heard from Audie and Jocelyn today. I think it speaks to the truth of coming out and how important it is for all of us.
Our closing words, "May you be changed," by Emily Richards. May you leave this time together changed. May the promises you have made to yourself about who you want to be feel closer to the reality of who you are right now. May you share that feeling of transformation wherever you go. May it spread into every word, deed, thought, and interaction until we are all changed transformed and transforming together, becoming our better selves.